Hey, it's Bethany Wallace. Many of you have asked me about the self-publishing process and kind of what advice I would give to you if you're thinking about it, and just all of that process. And so, since I've had lots of requests asking me about this, I figured the best thing to do to start with is just record something that kind of shares my own experience with the process and kind of some tips. And if this doesn't answer all your questions, um, you're welcome to reach out to me. So I decided to self-publish and not pursue the traditional publishing route of like seeking a publisher and all that, because at the beginning, when I published my poetry book, um, it is just a fun project, like a personal passion of writing poetry over the years. And I just thought it was COVID, why not get it out there? I never even considered seeking a publisher because I just knew that that would take a lot of time probably to secure one. And also, poetry isn't like real high in demand with publishers, and they're so it just it wasn't a good. I don't feel like it would have been a good use of my resources to seek a publisher. So I self-published. The first go around, I worked with a lady who's local in Batesville, and she did a fine job on it. The cover photo was, I got permission to use that from the photographer who's a friend of mine, Samuel Burgess. Um, and I love his work. And it completely captured like the feel of what I was hoping that the book also captured. So that worked out great. And so the woman I worked with helped me in terms of knowing, well, like I did all of my own, with all of my books, I did all of my own writing and editing and revising, because that's kind of what I do. Like my master's is in English. I've taught college, and I've worked as a professional writer and editor in many different arenas. And so I just didn't feel like it was a good use of my money to pay someone to do that part since I can do it myself. I did have on my Mama Meditations books, I did ask, I basically had beta readers, like people who would read the draft of the manuscript and mark it up for me a little bit, or give me feedback of like, this chapter just isn't very strong, or if they obviously see any spelling errors or anything glaring. And that actually proved really helpful to me. So I would suggest, if you go the self-publishing route, to definitely use some test readers or beta readers, or people who will be willing to preview it for you, um, if you aren't going to pay an editor. If you are not a professional writer already, if you're not paid to write already, then I would definitely suggest getting an editor, because um, there's no way that any writer can see all of their own mistakes um, without outside input, objective input. So while beta readers are helpful, if you already have a really clean manuscript, then beta readers can just find those last few little um, mistakes or nuances that could be improved upon. But if you aren't a strong writer, or writing isn't your first path as far as like what you spent most of your time on and energy on, and you've been paid to do it, then you really need an editor. And there's macro editing and micro editing, and you can look up the details of those, but you can decide what you need, I'm sure. Ideally, it'd be great to find somebody who can edit and do both, because sometimes we have blind spots about our own writing and we think that the concept of our book is fabulous, and then someone who can do more big picture editing reads it and is like, actually your storyline doesn't make any sense, or you didn't build up your characters very well and you need to go back and add a whole chapter on that, or whatever. So all that to be said, get an editor before you even think about publishing process. And then the other thing, if you're going to self-publish, after you've got an editor and you have a clean manuscript is you're going to need help with layout and cover design and getting it in publishing format. Most people choose to self-publish through Amazon because it's just kind of a tried and true and very simple way to do it. That's what I did with all my books. That's what I've done. So the layout is usually in a software called Vellum, which you can actually purchase yourself if you want to. You don't have to. My suggestion to make it easier on you and is don't work with one of these companies that claims to be a publisher, but really it's just like glorified self-publishing, because it's going to cost you thousands of dollars and they're not going to help you out any more than someone who just does that kind of stuff on their own and charges a few $100s. It's a huge price difference. So the first time around, I worked with a woman who's from Batesville, who's fine and did a good job for me. And I'd be glad to give you her contact information. The other books, I kind of reconnected with someone I had met through my business, and she's an author herself and has published like, I don't know how many books, dozens. And she's also a graphic artist and she has very strong technical expertise. And so I chose to use her, to hire her to help me with my other books. And I love her work. Like, I got to see some samples of what she'd done and it kind of mimicked my style and my desire for what I was going for a little bit better. And so that's why I switched to her. I'd be glad to also share her contact info with you if you want it. Just message me privately. But that was a very affordable way for me to get my books self-published. And she walked me through the process of all the steps of like, you can also pay her to do marketing for you, as far as not to do it for you, but to give you the pieces of content you need, like little videos to promote your book, or video to promote you as a writer, or a design that you might need if you're going to do like a tabletop display, if you're going to do a lot of book signings, stuff like that. She can do all that stuff for you, and at pretty affordable rates, much more affordable than most people, and good quality. So once I had a clean manuscript, I send it to her, and then she puts it into her software and makes it look good in terms of the interior of the book, the layout. And there's a lot of back and forth, like, do you like this? Well, I do, but I don't really like that font. Or I do, but I really want it like aligned with the left margin instead of indented paragraphs or whatever. So you'll have some back and forth like that. And then you will go to designing your cover in the back of the book. And those pieces are kind of the fun. That's the kind of the fun part. It's good to have someone who's a strong graphic designer, because someone who's good at it, like this woman I work with, I can just say, I like this, but I don't like that. And she can easily change things without it costing a lot more or taking much more of her time or my time and waiting for it. So after you design all the pieces and it's all ready, then you need to get it into Amazon, or maybe you're going to publish some other way. Amazon's easy because you don't have to order copies to keep on hand, like hard copies, and have people contact you and then you mail them a copy of your book. That's kind of an old way, outdated way of publishing and selling books. But now it's, print on demand. So when someone orders my book on Amazon, if they order the print version and not the Kindle version, then right then Amazon prints out the book and mails it directly to them. And I don't have to be the go-between. The only exception is if someone wants to order multiple copies, sometimes I will do that for them and sign the books for them if that's what they want. But for the most part, it kind of keeps my hands clean of all the time and it would take to have them shipped to me and then sign them and then ship them to individual people. That is just a lot of time that I don't have, because writing is a hobby for me. That's the last thing that I would say, is if you have expectations that you're going to become like super rich by writing books and publishing, self-publishing and stuff, um, maybe adjust your expectations because, as my friend Kent Nadler once said about publishing books, I've made, you too can make tens of dollars. And that's really pretty realistic. I mean, I have definitely no, I have not had a problem covering the costs of hiring someone to do layout and helping me with the publishing, but I haven't turned some kind of huge profit. Um, I mean, it's just, you know, self-publishing is not going to make you rich. But I would also say publishing through a publisher is probably also not going to make you rich. You have to be like a J.K. Rowling or something, um, or Beth Moore, or like, it's just very difficult to have that kind of success with writing and publishing and being an author. So I just would encourage you to do your homework and talk to people like me, watch things like this video. There are great author groups on Facebook. I'm not a part of them anymore because I don't have time to keep up with it. My focus really is on my role with Wycliffe Bible Translators as a stateside missionary. So writing is truly a hobby for me now. It's not um, any part of my career goals. It's just something I'm doing for fun because I enjoy it. It's easy for me, and I like it. And there's all kinds of stories in me that need to come out, whether that's nonfiction or fiction. So all that to be said, I really hope that this video is helpful to you. If you're one of those people who's asked me for ideas or tips or what is the process like, I hope it kind of paints the picture for you of what it's like. And I've tried to be pretty transparent about all the process and steps with you so that you don't have to learn a lot of things by trial and error, because that takes time and takes money. So definitely my other last bit of advice would be, if you're looking for an editor, be careful about who you select, because I would look for someone who has already had a strong track record of working with authors, producing really clean manuscripts that are written really well, like the kind of books that you read and you're like, wow. Absolutely never hire someone as an editor who doesn't have a lot of writing experience themselves. Just having a degree in English or communications is not enough to make you a great editor. Like, I just really would suggest and emphasize that you need to get samples, and that you need to see that the end result is completely like flawless, because that's kind of what you're going for when you hire someone. Like, you don't want to have to catch all those things yourself. You want someone else to. And lastly, make sure you hire someone to help you. And this is whether it's with the publishing process or editing. But you need to have someone working with you who is passionate about it and is easy to work with. Like, where their style of giving feedback and the response time and all of that works for you. Some people as editors are offer suggestions more than they tell you what to do. Some people will make the changes for you, and some people will do whatever it is you want them to do if you just tell them. So definitely be really clear on upfront with someone about what you're wanting, what your expectations are. And if you sense hesitancy, then just honor that and move on and find someone else, because you definitely need somebody who's has the time and is willing to commit it to your process. So I hope all this is helpful. I'm trying to make sure I don't leave out any parts about this. But you're welcome to message me privately and ask questions about the specific books I've published, or the people I've worked with, if you want recommendations, um, all that kind of stuff. I'm glad to help you out. And I can also point you in the direction of an editor who I feel is really strong and sound in their expertise. So I hope that you all have a great week, and yeah, happy writing and happy publishing.